there's a document from the CIA that was released. I really should have written the date down. It's like 1957, the CIA document.
Sounds good.
And it was like a 10-page document that was released to the public in 1995. And it was about the Soviet Russia and the impacts of communism with the changing and deletion or erasing of history.
Okay.
And they talk about Tartaria in this document from 1957.
1883, New York City. Two worlds occupy the same space. Walk down Broadway at street level. Your boots sink into 3 inches of horse manure mixed with mud. The stench is overwhelming. Raw sewage runs in open gutters. A dead horse lies rotting on the corner. It'll be there for 3 more days before the city removes it. Women lift their skirts to avoid the filth. Wooden carts creak past. No electricity, no antibiotics, no telephones. Cholera outbreaks kill thousands every summer. This is the most advanced city in America. Now look up. Suspended 135 feet above this medieval hellscape is a cathedral made of steel. The Brooklyn Bridge, 1,195 feet of impossible engineering. 4 steel cables, each containing 5,282 individual wires. 14,000 miles of steel wire total. Gothic towers of granite and steel rising 276 feet, higher than every building in New York except one church spire. It looks like it was teleported from the future, dropped into a world that still empties. Chamber pots out windows. The contrast is so violent it makes your brain hurt. In the streets below, disease, horses, wooden wheels, mud. Overhead, precision engineering that would challenge modern builders. This isn't just an anachronism, it's an impossibility, like finding a smartphone in a Viking burial mound. 7 years later, they built something even worse in Scotland. Here's what makes it impossible. The men who built this didn't have light bulbs. They worked by gaslight and candle. They didn't understand germ theory. The chief engineer of the Brooklyn Bridge died from an infected foot because doctors didn't wash their hands. They had no computers, no calculators, no electric welders, no cranes as we know them. They moved materials with steam and muscle. They communicated by telegraph. They traveled by horse. And yet they built structures that modern engineering firms struggle to even maintain. Not similar structures. The same structures, still standing, still in use, 140 years later. Could we build the Brooklyn Bridge today using only 1880s technology? The answer, and this is the part that should terrify you, is probably not. Because the technology isn't just old, it's extinct. The skills are dead. The workforce doesn't exist. The methods have been lost. We've spent 140 years optimizing for efficiency and safety. They optimized for brutality and permanence. And somewhere in that optimization, we lost something essential. The question isn't just, how did they do it? The question is, why can't we? The tools they had. Here's what shocks people. They had precision manufacturing. The Clyde Rivet Company mass-produced 6.5 million identical rivets. Bessemer Foundries produced consistent steel by the ton. Hydraulic networks ran through cities like electrical grids, pressurized water, delivering tons of force on demand. What they didn't have, computers, antibiotics, safety regulations. The tools existed, the methods, were documented. The materials are available. The question isn't, did they have technology? The question is, could modern workers survive without the technology we depend on? The Victorians didn't have the option to quit. Immigrants, refugees, desperate men, work or starve. That desperation, combined with skill and terrifying bravery, built these bridges. We've optimized away desperation, and maybe, in the process, we've optimized away capability. The Monster. Scotland, 1890, the Fourth Bridge. This is where Victorian engineering stopped being impressive and started being terrifying. A beast of red steel clawing across the Firth of Forth. 3 massive cantilever structures, each one 361 feet tall, higher than the Statue of Liberty. 53,000 tons of steel. 6.5 million rivets, spanning 8,094 feet, over 1.5 miles. Imagine you're a Scottish fisherman. You've lived your entire life in a world of wood and stone, thatched roofs, candlelight, nothing taller than a church steeple. Then one morning, you wake up and this is rising out of the mist, a skeletal monster of red steel, 361 feet tall, stretching across the water like a claw, every rivet visible, every joint exposed. The public called it the Monster. Critics demanded it be demolished. Not because it was unsafe, because it was too alien. Victorian architecture was ornate, decorative. This was industrial brutalism 80 years before brutalism existed. And every single connection in that bridge, 6.5 million rivets, was made by hand. The lost art. 6.5 million rivets, each one heated to white hot, over 1,000 degrees, then thrown through the air, sometimes 30 feet, caught in a bucket, placed in a hole, and hammered flat before it cooled. 4 men per team, all synchronized. One mistake and someone dies. The heater sits at a portable forge on the bridge, heats rivets until they glow white, judges temperature by color. White is perfect. Yellow is too hot. Red is too cold. He has seconds to decide. The thrower launches it, hard, through the air, to another platform 30 feet away. The rivet is glowing, still over 1,000 degrees. If it hits you, you're scarred for life. The catcher tracks the glowing rivet through the air, catches it in a metal bucket. Can't fumble, can't miss. The bucker-up presses an iron bar against the back, holds steady, takes the impact. His body is the anvil. The riveter drives it home with a pneumatic hammer. The rivet deforms, fills the hole. As it cools, it contracts, creates a joint stronger than welding. This happened 6.5 million times on the 4th bridge alone. Now here's the uncomfortable part. We can't do this anymore. Not at this scale. The workforce is extinct. Hot riveting is a dead art. Maybe a few dozen people on Earth know how to do it properly. Historical reenactors, hobbyists. If the 4th bridge were destroyed tomorrow, we could not rebuild it the same way. The knowledge is gone. The muscle memory is gone. The tolerance for danger is gone. The technology is extinct. What else have we lost? The silicon chip moment of 1856. Before they could build monsters, they needed steel, mountains of it, and that required a revolution, the Bessemer process. 1856. Henry Bessemer figured out how to turn iron into steel by blowing air through molten metal. That's it. Oxygen burns out impurities. What remains is steel, strong, flexible, reliable, suddenly cheap. This was the silicon chip moment of the 19th century. Before microchips, computers filled rooms. After, they fit in your pocket. Before Bessemer, buildings were stone and wood. After, buildings could be steel, taller, stronger, faster. Within 20 years, Britain was producing hundreds of thousands of tons annually. The 4th bridge required 53,000 tons, delivered by rail, from 3 foundries, mass production, industrial scale, in 1885. And here's where the story gets strange. Look at photographs of these bridges. They're not just functional, they're beautiful. Gothic arches, intricate stonework, decorative flourishes that serve no structural purpose. They over-engineered everything, built to last 1,000 years. Now look at a modern bridge. Concrete, flat, functional, built to last 50 years. No ornamentation, no beauty. Why? Why did Victorian engineers build like they were defying death itself? Some theorists point to this as evidence of a lost world aesthetic. They call it the Old World style, or Tartaria. Buildings that seem too ornate, too well built for the societies that supposedly created them. I'm not endorsing conspiracy theories, but I am asking, why did these bridges look like they were built by a different species? Maybe they didn't have computers to optimize for minimum cost, so they just made everything twice as strong. Maybe they didn't have project managers obsessing over budgets, so they built for permanence, not profit. They built for 1,000 years. We build for 50. That's not progress. That's planned obsolescence applied to civilization itself. Underwater hell. Now, let's talk about New York, 1869. The Brooklyn Bridge. Where engineering ambition met medical ignorance, John Augustus Roebling designed a masterpiece. He didn't live to see it. 1869, surveying the site. A ferry crushes his foot against a piling. Relatively minor injury, but this is 1869. Doctors don't wash their hands, don't sterilize instruments, don't understand bacteria. The wound becomes infected. Tetanus, lockjaw, muscle spasms, so violent they fracture bones. Roebling dies 3 weeks later. This is the world that built the Brooklyn Bridge, where the chief engineer dies from bacteria nobody believes in. His son, Washington, takes over. Age 32, brilliant engineer. And the real nightmare begins, because the foundations were built underwater, in hell. Caissons, massive wooden boxes sunk into the riverbed, sealed, pressurized. Workers entered through airlocks. Inside, darkness lit by candles, ankle-deep water, thick air, hard to breathe. Smells like river mud and sewage. Your job, dig for 4 hours in pressure. In heat, 80, 90 degrees. then climb back up, and that's when it hits you. Workers started collapsing, screaming, clutching their joints, pain so intense they couldn't stand, contorted bodies trying to get relief. They called it Grecian bends. We know now, decompression sickness, nitrogen dissolving into blood under pressure. When you return to normal pressure too quickly, it bubbles out. In your joints, in your spine, in your brain. Small bubbles, pain. Bigger bubbles, paralysis. Bubbles in the brain, death. Workers were literally fizzing to death from the inside. Washington Roebling spent more time in the caissons than anyone, supervising, inspecting, day after day for 2 years. 1872, severe attack. He collapses, paralyzed from the waist down, blurred vision, chronic pain. He can barely leave his bedroom. For the next 11 years, Washington Roebling supervised the most complex engineering project on Earth from his apartment window, using a telescope, unable to visit, unable to inspect. His wife, Emily Warren Roebling, became his proxy. She learned engineering, studied materials, cable theory, stress analysis. She walked the bridge daily, inspected work, made decisions. The establishment was furious. A woman supervising a bridge? They demanded Washington be replaced, Emily testified, demonstrated her competence. They couldn't find anyone who understood the project better. So she built it. The bridge opened May 24th, 1883. Emily rode the first carriage across, carrying a rooster, symbol of victory. President Chester Arthur attended. 150,000 people crossed that first day. Washington Roebling lived until 1926, 54 years of chronic pain. They built a bridge that still carries 100,000 vehicles daily, but the chief engineer died from an infected foot, and his son was crippled by nitrogen bubbles. They could calculate stress on a suspension cable to extraordinary precision, but they couldn't wash their hands before surgery. The human cost. Let's talk about numbers. Nobody wants to discuss. Fourth bridge. At least 57 dead. Possibly 80. Falls. Crushed by steel. Burned by rivets. Drowned. Records don't even agree because some deaths weren't reported. Immigrant workers. Undocumented. They died, and nobody wrote it down. Brooklyn Bridge. 20 confirmed. Likely 27. Possibly more. Incomplete records. Some workers just disappeared. Stopped showing up. No compensation. No rights. No lawsuits. Think about what that means. These bridges required human sacrifice, literally. The Brooklyn Bridge caissons are graveyards. Workers who died down there were sometimes left in place, sealed in concrete, too dangerous to recover. They're still there, entombed in the foundation. When the fourth bridge opened in 1890, newspapers reported deaths like construction costs. The bridge consumed 53,000 tons of steel and approximately 60 workers, steel and men, both expendable, both in the budget. Compare to modern construction. Burj Khalifa, tallest building in the world, built 2004-2010. Official death toll, 1 worker. 1, 6 years, thousands of workers. 1 death. International news, investigations, lawsuits. The fourth bridge killed 60, 80, and nobody counted accurately. This is the difference. They didn't build better. They just valued human life less. Or did they? The fourth bridge, 134 years, no failure. Brooklyn Bridge, 141 years. No collapse. Modern bridges? Average highway overpass is structurally deficient after 30 years. They built bridges that outlasted 5 generations of humans. We build bridges that barely outlast 1 generation of cars. High casualties? Permanent results? Or 0 casualties? Temporary infrastructure? Which is better? I'm not suggesting we go back. I'm asking, is there a middle ground we've missed? The ones that didn't survive. We've only talked about the bridges that worked, the masterpieces. But for every Brooklyn Bridge, there was a Tay Bridge disaster. December 28th, 1879, Scotland. A train crosses the Tay Bridge in a storm, 2 miles long. Considered an engineering marvel. Designed by Sir Thomas Bouch, one of Britain's most respected engineers. The train reaches the center, and the bridge breaks. Catastrophically. 13 spans collapse. The train plunges into the Firth of Tay with all 75 passengers. No survivors. The inquiry revealed horror. So the iron was substandard, full of impurities. Inspectors found holes in structural members patched with beeswax, to hide defects. Sir Thomas Bouch had another project underway, the fourth bridge. His plans were immediately cancelled. Work stopped. Public confidence shattered. This is why the fourth bridge looks like a monster. It was built in response to disaster. Engineers Fowler and Baker designed it with one principle: over-engineer everything. Make it twice as strong as calculations suggest. Build it to survive the worst storm in 1,000 years. And it has. 134 years. through storms, through wars, still standing. But the Tay wasn't the only failure. August 29th, 1907, the Quebec Bridge, Canada, designed to be longer than the fourth, more ambitious. Engineers noticed the south arm deforming, bending under its own weight. They sent a telegram, stop work immediately. Too late. 5:37 p.m. The south arm collapsed. 19,000 tons of steel fell into the St. Lawrence River. 75 workers killed instantly. Sound heard 10 miles away. They rebuilt it, September 11th, 1916, lifting the 5,000-ton center span. When the lifting device failed, the span dropped. 13 more dead. Total death toll. 88 men to build one bridge. A bridge supposed to prove engineering had advanced beyond the Victorian era. Instead, it proved they'd forgotten the Victorian lesson. Overbuild everything. Here's what separates survivors from failures. Paranoia. Fourth Bridge engineers were paranoid, tested steel 3 times, rejected entire shipments for one flaw, built redundancy into redundancy, every member strong enough to carry the entire load alone. Insane over-engineering. That's why it stands. Tay Bridge trusted the contractor. Found holes in beams, patched with wax, accepted it. Quebec Bridge trusted calculations, trusted the engineer's reputation. Theodore Cooper, Brooklyn Bridge veteran, legend. He said safe. Nobody questioned. It fell. Survivor bias isn't which bridges we remember, it's which lessons we learned and which we forgot. The aesthetic mystery. These Victorian bridges don't just look stronger, they look fundamentally different. Fourth Bridge, every structural member visible, exposed, honest, you can see exactly how forces flow. Brooklyn Bridge, Gothic towers, pointed arches, a bridge designed like a cathedral. Modern bridge, concrete box, the structure hidden inside. You can't see how it works. You have to trust the math. The Victorians didn't separate beauty from strength. John Roebling was engineer and architect. Benjamin Baker understood physics and aesthetics. We've specialized, divided, lost the ability to build things both strong and beautiful. The Fourth Bridge terrified people because it was honest, every rivet visible. It said, "This is what strength looks like." Modern bridges say, "Trust us. Don't worry how it works." Maybe Victorian bridges feel more permanent because we can see their strength. August 1st, 2007. 6:05 p.m., Minneapolis. I-35W bridge, rush hour traffic, cars bumper to bumper. Then a sound like thunder. The center span collapsed. 13 people died in their cars, plunging 108 feet into the Mississippi River. 145 injured. The bridge was 40 years old. Inspectors had rated it structurally deficient for 17 years. 17 years of inspections. And it fell anyway. Meanwhile, the Brooklyn Bridge, 141 years old, built with slide rules, carries 100,000 vehicles daily without a crack. Something is deeply wrong with this picture. They were throwing raw human suffering at the laws of physics until something worked. No computer simulations, no safety regulations, just trial and error. Build it, test it. If it fails, try again. Sacrifice more workers. Eventually you get the Brooklyn Bridge, high ambition, low safety. Unbelievable tolerance for casualties, but also unbelievable commitment to permanence. They weren't building for 50 years. They were building for eternity. Every decision reflected that. Use steel that's twice as strong as needed. Install 3 times as many rivets as calculations require. Overbuild everything because you only get one chance. We build for the next budget cycle. They built for their great-grandchildren's great-grandchildren. The unbearable question. Think about what this means. Really think about it. No computers, no calculators beyond slide. Rules, no electric tools, no modern cranes, just steam-powered winches. No OSHA, no safety regulations, no modern medicine. A cut can kill you. Compressed air can cripple you. And you need 600 workers. Immigrants who don't speak English. Who will work in those conditions for $2.25 a day, $70 and $24 for a job that might kill you? The engineering? Maybe. There are still people who understand 19th century structural mechanics. But the workforce? No, the skills are extinct. Hot riveting is a dead art. There aren't 4,000 men alive who could build the Fourth Bridge using 1880s methods. The methods are technologically extinct and morally extinct. And that's progress. That's good. We shouldn't want to build like the Victorians. The human cost was too high. But look at the Fourth Bridge. 53,000 tons of steel. 6.5 million rivets. Built to last 1,000 years. Still perfect. 134 years later. Modern highway overpass, concrete. Built for 50 years, cracking after 30. They built like they were defying death itself. We build like everything is temporary. If humanity lost all modern technology tomorrow, could we rebuild? Species that overspecialize lose flexibility, optimize for current conditions. When conditions change, they go extinct. We've optimized for cheap, fast, efficient, lost the knowledge of permanent, enduring. If technology collapsed, could we rebuild? Or would we just stare at Victorian bridges and wonder how? The Victorians built bridges modern engineers struggle to maintain, with slide rules and steam, no computers, just math and unlimited tolerance for sacrifice. We have better tools, better materials, better safety. But do we have the will, the ambition, the commitment to permanence? Or have we forgotten how to build things that outlast us? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think we could build the Brooklyn Bridge today using only 1880s technology? Or has humanity lost the toughness required? If this changed how you see the Victorian era, if you're looking at old buildings differently now, hit that like button and subscribe. Because we're diving into more impossible engineering from history, more structures that shouldn't exist, more evidence that our ancestors were far more capable than we give them credit for, and maybe, just maybe, more capable than we are.